the person you hire conatively is going to be the same person on day one as day 365 as 10 years from now. So it really helps employers understand how people will take action, and they can rely on that number and that information over a long period of time of employment.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today. We have a very, very special guest. We have Eryn Morgan, and Eryn is a Kolbe Certified Business Consultant who specializes in helping collaborative teams work together with synergy. She specializes in using the Kolbe cognitive assessment to unlock the strength and superpowers of individuals and discovers roadblocks that really keeps companies from thriving. She has a signature process that helps CEOs, leadership teams, as well as individual employees make subtle adjustments to their aligned job roles and expectations, and really helps them maximize their communication strategies in order to increase company-wide productivity, creativity, as well as profits. Please join me in welcoming Eryn Morgan to the platform. Hey, Eryn, how are you today?
Hey, Susanne, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for having us. One of the big, obviously on our profit and loss statement for a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the biggest expense is payroll expenses, right? And to the point that we can get it right? We can decrease turnover and we can actually get an ROI on that expense, right? And have it more of an investment. That is the goal of what we want as profit first entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And we are so excited to have you here on our show today because we want your help in getting it right, getting hiring right? So that we don't
I
have
will
to
do my best. I will do my
this.
best.
So Eryn, tell me, first of all, tell me, how did you begin? How did you get into this line of work?
So I worked with a really great business coach back in 2016. And when we were first starting our work together, she said, "Hey, have you taken the Kolbe assessment?" I'd never heard of it. Most people haven't. And she's like, "Go ahead and take it, because when you do, you're going to get 4 numbers, and those numbers are going to help me help you to grow your business." And I was like, "Well, that's good enough for me, right?" So I went to the website, I took this test, and I got these 4 numbers. And what ultimately happened for me as a result of unlocking my unique strengths using the Kolbe cognitive assessment, I discovered the way that I get things done, how I make decisions, and how I work with people. So it's been now, oh gosh, like 6 years that I've been using this as a tool in working and coaching individual business owners, individual CEOs, and recently expanded out to working with teams, because that's what I was seeing. A lot of people are needing to work with synergy, find the right people, put them in the right roles, and get everybody communicating clearly. So it's been a long road of discovery, finding all kinds of really cool ways to use it, but it's a best kept secret, I think.
I love it. There's a lot of different tests that are out there, right? There's Kolbe, there's DES, there's so many different tests out there, but Kolbe is a little bit unique. Do you mind telling us a little bit about why Kolbe is unique compared to the other tests that exist, and how it can be useful for employers?
100%. So here's a little bit, we're going to do a little bit of science. There's actually 3 parts of your mind. The first part is the cognitive piece, and this is all about your skills and what you can do. So a lot of job placements would use cognitive assessments. Those are great. The next part is the affective part of the mind. This is your personality. So this is where DISC and Strengths Finders and Myers-Briggs and some of those other personality-based tests we're so familiar with, that's where they fit in. And this is great. It tells you what you want to do. This is about your preferences and your personality. So that's awesome. And that's where most people stop. But this third piece of the mind, the conative part, conative, this conative piece of the mind, it really allows us to understand how you make decisions, how you will take action when you're striving towards a goal. And it's the only assessment that actually measures that, right? It's the only one that exists. So where it's really neat is for an employer to understand from resume to interview to the hire, the extension of an offer to hire, they understand the way that this person processes information, the way they're likely to take action on their job, on projects that they're being asked to work on. And the best part is unlike your personality, which can shift if it's raining or if you have a stomach ache, you can be in a really yucky mood. Um, your cognitive skills don't change. Your cognitive strengths remain consistent over time. And they've actually done studies that show decades worth of consistency in this number. So what's amazing is the person you hire cognitively is going to be the same person on day one as day 365 as 10 years from now. So it really helps employers understand how people will take action, and they can rely on that number and that information over a long period of time of employment.
I love that. That is really important. And I know one of the things that we teach in Profit First is the importance of working with your natural psychological and biological makeup, right? Because, you're always fighting against the grain if you're trying to go against who you're naturally made to be, right? And so to be able to
Absolutely.
understand that from the beginning just makes it so much easier, right? This is the place I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm gifted in. And this let me do it and get on my way, right?
Exactly.
Is really, really important with that. So tell me about Kolbe. Tell me about how, what the different things that it measures, and tell us about who works together well together, and how these numbers all play out.
Sure. Okay, so let's break it apart into understanding what these four numbers are really talking about. The first number is just fact finder. This is all about how you gather and share information. So if you've ever met anybody who tells you a story about their vacation by saying, well, first we got in the car, and then we turned on the engine, and then we drove down the driveway. And by the way, we forgot to close the garage door, right? That's the story of my vacation. And I'll tell you why that's funny in a second, but it ultimately is all about how people really gather and share information. And the more detailed folks have higher numerals on that mode, and those who prefer less detail or don't need as much specificity will have lower numbers. So that's the first one. It's all about how you gather and share information. This is great. So then the second number is called follow through. And follow through, you might think, would be about following through and being true to your word and doing what you say you're going to do. A little less. I think about follow through as systems and how you either like to build and construct and use systems, or maybe how you don't like to do that, right? So folks who have really high numbers in follow through are people who love to create and build and engineer systems and organizational structures and plans. And we love these people because they're so great at helping those of us who are quick starts, that's me, get things done, right? But if you have a lower number, you're somebody who adapts, actually. You don't need the system. You actually sometimes will break a system if it exists because you are always looking for shortcuts and ways to improvise. And that's really fun too. So those are the first two, fact finder and follow through. The third one is called quick start. Quick start is me. I'm an 8 quick start. Which means that what it's really about, we often think of quick starts working quickly, going fast, and sometimes that's true, but really it deals with how you handle risk and uncertainty. So a higher number on the quick start is somebody who is brainstorming and innovating and taking initiatives that might not work out, right? It might be pretty risky. And a lot of entrepreneurs are this way. Business owners, they have these huge ideas and these plans. And sometimes they're sort of betting the rent, right? They don't really know if it's going to work. And people who have lower numbers, those folks are all about stability. Let's keep things stable. Let's keep things working the same way we're used to. A very grounding energy for somebody like that. And we need all these different ranges. Every number is important in the grand scheme of things. And then finally, there's the fourth number. It's called implementer. And this is all about how you deal with tangibles in space. People who like to touch and feel things, build things with their hands. Those higher numbers, they're great for quality control. So if you have a product-based business where you're creating a lot of tangible goods, you want somebody really high in implementer versus somebody like me who I can envision things, but I don't need to touch and feel them. So if you're going to ask me if this is a really high quality coffee cup, I'm going to go, yeah, it looks really great, and move on. But somebody who's really good at implementer is going to say, yeah, but you see that little hairline fracture on the handle of the mug? That's going to break when somebody picks it up. So this is where they handle space and tangible. So it's a little complex, right? But once you understand your numbers and what they mean for you, then you can start to understand the numbers of other people. And that's where the synergy comes in.
I love that. So would you say, Eryn, that it's best to assign job tasks based upon the number? Or what are your thoughts with that?
Yes, I think that there are people who are more naturally suited to do certain kinds of work. So putting me as an 8 quick start and a 4 in fact finder, I'm going to explain stuff to you and I'm going to go out and like come up with crazy ideas. And you don't really want me doing biomedical research. That would not be a good career for me. It would not. My research for me wouldn't be particularly good, and neither is building systems. I'm not going to come and like plan out your projects in Asana or Trello or any of these like very complex. That's not me, right? So if that's the job I'm being asked to do, I'm going to get pretty frustrated, and that's just my example. This happens in every individual. Is if they're being asked to do things that cause them to go against their grain, against their natural strengths, they're going to have a lot of strain and tension and conflict in their jobs, which ultimately leads to all the turnover and the miscommunications and things not getting done. So it's possible to get somebody aligned well from the very start. But sometimes it means moving expectations around, changing the way a role might be performed from one person to the next. Because there's lots of different ways to get to, if I say, let's go, you're in Houston, I'm in Philadelphia, let's both go to Miami. I bet we both get there, but we take totally different routes. The same would be true if we were both in Houston. We'd get to Miami, but I bet we'd do it differently. And it's that kind of idea is all about how to get the right person in the right role.
I love that. And so I'm curious, we always want to look for our right hand, right? We always, that's important to say as you're scaling. Part of it is being able to fire yourself from different jobs and bring in someone else that can do the job that you fired yourself from, right? If you're a
Mhm.
scaling business, which a lot of our listeners are here. Um, when you're looking to bring in someone that's going to be that right hand, what characteristics do you want them to have? For example, I see you're a 4483. First of all, Eryn, tell us what 4483 means, and then tell us who the perfect right hand man would be for that.
Yeah. So 4483 means that I don't need a ton of information. I like to make summaries. And I really thrive on maintaining systems. I don't want to create them. Probably won't break them, but it's possible I could. Quick start. I'm going to innovate, brainstorm. I'm always going to come up with a million ideas, and I have the ability to visualize my solution. So, in terms of somebody like me, if I were looking to replace me, and I mean, we think about Mike and when he talks about the queen bee role, right? Figuring out what that role is that must be protected above all things in profit first. If we're looking for that right hand, that person to replace me, um, for somebody like an entrepreneur like me, I need somebody who has the ability to innovate. And I need somebody who's going to be able to work with the team player, the team that I've created, somebody who isn't going to come in and break a successful team. Because if I'm scaling, that means things are working inside my team. Sure, we're making adjustments, we're adding new people into the mix. But all in all, people are working together really well. And so if I'm looking to replace myself first, I'm probably going to add a couple of people to replace my role. Small bits of my role will get handed off to lots of people. But I need somebody who can innovate, who can come up with those creative ideas and who can, really drive forward. Versus if I'm going to stay in the innovator role in my company, if that's ultimately going to be the role I serve, is that innovation and creative ideas, then everything else needs to be replaced. And the way that I look at it, I want the expert in that. So I'm always going to look for somebody who has the strength. I need somebody who can project manage, like way project manage. So I want somebody who's an 8-8 Pathfinder follow through, which is what I have on my team right now. My Corey, she's an 8-8 and she project manages like a champ, right? And it counters me in a beautiful way because I don't have to worry about all the details and all the systems that we're doing. I just get to show up with a creative, crazy idea. And Corey's like, okay, I gotcha. I can do the research, put it in a system, we're good. Right. So it's all about whether are we really replacing you 100%, you're out of the business, or are you maintaining some pieces of the role that best suits you and then the other pieces are being reassigned?
I love that. So really, it's not about just the number. It's about what role are they going to play? What is the expectation and what is the deliverable, right? Because if
Absolutely.
it's maintaining a current system or a current environment or current employees that are of a certain way, you're going to want a personality that can lead that personality with
Absolutely.
that. And so it's more of finding synergy, not necessarily what's compatible with you, but what the role needs is what I'm hearing from you on that,
Yeah,
Eryn.
absolutely. Now, if I were going to go out and say, I need to find my perfect VA, right? So we're hiring a virtual assistant or executive virtual assistant. I need to look at my numbers very closely in collaboration with that individual because they need to be able to be a support team member for me, right? They're not here to replace me, they're here to support me. And so my answer is going to change in that because I need somebody who can kind of hang with my fast paced, creative, innovative self, somebody who's a one in comparison to my eight. They're going to struggle to keep up with my pace. And that's not their fault. Their job is to stabilize, and I keep changing things, right? So in those cases, what I like to use as a bit of a rule of thumb, and it's not perfect, but keeping things within about two numbers of what you are. So if I were to find somebody who was a 5 or a 6 quick start, they're going to resonate with my style of moving quickly more than somebody who's a 1, right? And I certainly don't want somebody who's a 10 because I already move faster than my team can handle. So we don't need my assistant coming up with crazier ideas than I have, right? So we're always looking and keeping it in good balance. So is it a question of truly replacing the role, or is it a support or complementary role that we're looking for?
Oh, I love that idea. So it's a support role versus a leading role or implementer role. So it really just depends on that. I love how you say that. And so, Eryn, one of my questions is, where does Kolbe go wrong? Where do we go wrong with Kolbe testing and employees and building teams? Like, where does it go wrong with this? Because
Yeah.
no system's ever perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. One, personality matters, right? So that affective part of the minds, a lot of people will couple up some of those more personality based because just because you are somebody who is a quick start by nature doesn't mean you're an extrovert. So if you have somebody who needs to be in a very extroverted sales role and you look at it and say, well, they're an 8, they should be great. They're a quick start. That means they're not necessarily, right? So we make these assumptions based on, well, these are this person's numbers. And so this is how they're going to be. But that X factor of who the human is, the personality of the human, it comes into play. And it's important to take it into account. Just because somebody has the right numbers on paper doesn't mean you should hire them if ultimately their personality doesn't gel with the rest of your team. So I like to think about this as, again, synergy is bringing a lots of different pieces together. I need the right skills, that cognitive piece. I need the right match personality wise in terms of company culture. And then I ultimately need somebody who has the ability to make decisions and take action in their role in a way that's expected for their best success. And it's really thinking about it as that Venn diagram of three pieces coming together in the center and being perfect. That's really what we're looking for. And I think that when you consider a whole human, that's when you can really apply Kolbe to its best.
I love that, because you're right. You can absolutely get one of those super high quick starts, but then you can get that driver disc personality, which are the people that just get things done. And you just got a bulldozer on your team that can communicate and runs over all
Right.
your clients. So that could be definitely a big disaster if you're trying to get a customer service person in there. That can be a
Right.
bad thing on that. So that'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
How, tell me about the implementation of Kolbe. What does that look like?
Sure. So once somebody understands their score, their unique score, they can start to look at the scores of other people and start to get a semblance of how they might work together. But one of the things that I have found in my years of using this is it's very easy to use for yourself with a very baseline amount of knowledge. But when you start to want to look at synergy and collaboration with others, is where having somebody who, like me, who is a Kolbe certified consultant, would be of good service, right? Because we can see the full landscape of what all these numbers mean for all these different people and really help you find those matches and those perfect fits. So it's not impossible for somebody to say, oh, well, I know my Kolbe score and I know this person who's applying for the job. I know their Kolbe score and they're 2 away, so we'll be a good fit, right? That's about where the limitation is for most individuals. And so what I love to do is help to both educate people in that wider way so they can say, oh, wait, I understand how these numbers all work together, but also so that they could start to do more advanced things with somebody like me as a Kolbe consultant. I can come in and do all kinds of very advanced things like hiring and job training for people who need to change their role. Like, there's all kinds of cool stuff we can do. But it really begins with knowing yourself. So if I was going to give a piece of advice to anybody interested in this, it would be start with yourself, start with learning your score. And then we can start to build on that with your team.
I love that because at the end of the day, you got to be able to work with those around you, right? Because you are the MVP. And if you have to step out, the business most likely can't run without you. So
Right.
being able to have a team that can support you is extremely important. So Eryn, thank you for sharing that.
Sure,
You
you bet.
So one of the things I like to ask all of our guests as we start to wrap up is if you can leave our entrepreneurs with any piece of advice, it can be personal, it can be business related. What would that advice be?
Go with your gut. And it's actually something that I've been thinking into and leaning into more and more in my business is um, when it doesn't feel right to you as a CEO, it probably isn't. And so leaning into that and starting to explore that, I mean, just in my business specifically, we're using some software that I'm looking around going, wait a second, I hate this software. I don't understand it. I don't like using it. And it's got my whole business inside. Why are we using this? Right. And so I could continue to stumble along down that path. Making the choice of changing is hard, right? Everybody's got to pivot, everybody's got to shift. But to me, my gut is saying you need to go in this direction. This is the right way for you to go. And I have to trust myself. I have to trust my instincts. And I know enough about myself because of my Kolbe score and lots of other pieces of my personality to know that at the end of the day, I can trust myself. And so that's where I think my key to success was learning how to trust myself, how to trust my guts, and going with it.
I love that because, it's very easy to get wrapped up in numbers and numerical scores. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's the combination of things. And ultimately, when you make a decision, it's going back to that gut. These are the numbers, these are the facts, right? For us high fact finders.
Yes, yes.
And now what just makes sense from a gut standpoint. And
Right,
and
right.
then that's how we proceed with that.
Right. And as business owners and entrepreneurs, sometimes we have that, okay, the numbers tell me this, but my gut is saying something different. And let me really look at that with a little bit more intentionality and say, well, what's really going on here? What's going on underneath this? Is it a fear that's coming up, or could the numbers actually be taking me in the direction that's going away from my purpose or away from where I really want my company to go? And there are those deeper level questions that sometimes pop up and they're never comfortable. They're never fun to field when the numbers and the gut instinct doesn't match. But I think it's worth exploring in a lot of those situations.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And so, Eryn, how do our entrepreneurs find you? How do they connect with you? How do they locate you in order to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live at erynmorgan.com. That's where I am. And I have a pretty cool CEO checklist that people can grab and learn a little bit about my philosophy and how I do things. And it's really actionable. It's pretty cool to assess where you are as a CEO. But then I will let everybody know that there's a way that you can take the Kolbe assessment if it's something you haven't done before. You can absolutely go to kolbe.com and take that test. But I actually have a really fun new way that people can take that assessment through me and get a lot of additional resources and tools and audio trainings and fun things like that. So the way you find out about that is by being on my email list. So the same road applies. Go on over to erynmorgan.com, grab the checklist, and we can absolutely get you a Kolbe test that will help you figure all this out. It's super fun. And then I get to support you and give you more resources.
And for you guys that are listening and that are driving right now, Eryn actually spells her name a little bit different than your traditional Eryn. It's ErynMorgan.com. So Eryn. I'm going to put that in the show notes so that you can find it, click on it, and
Thanks.
be able to connect with her because it is a little bit unique spelling of a name for Eryn.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes I say it out loud and then I'm like, right, because they can't see it. They're just listening.
Eryn, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge on Kolbe and personality testing in order to build teams and reminding us, at the end of the day, there's a human factor too with that. So we definitely appreciate you coming on our show and spending time with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eryn.